first off, Allan, how did you get attached to this project? And Nestor, what drew you to this project? Were you guys aware of the true story of Gilbert Galvin Jr. beforehand?
So as a Canadian, I knew the moniker, the Flying Bandit. I wasn't that familiar with the story and his exploits. Craig Wenman, who wrote the script, we shared an agent. So I got the script sent over to me. I fell in love with it right away. As a Canadian, I was like, okay, Canada for Canada, Canadian story. My patriotism is going to pay off. This is going to be great. And the fact that it was all truth being stranger than fiction, I thought, I've got to tell this story. I've got to do it. And
yeah, extraordinary. And you did it in 21 days. This man did the impossible because this was budgeted for Canada at one point, 32 days, ended up being shot in Georgia, not in Atlanta, which you initially thought.
So much for my Canadian patriotism.
Exactly.
I was so excited to make this movie in Canada about Canada. And I was like, let's do it in Georgia.
He just sold out.
Yeah, I sold out.
No, you didn't. There was no other way to make the film other than not only in Georgia, but also in Thomasville, because all the sort of the sets were taken in Atlanta. So
we had 3 cities. Yeah. Valdosta, Tifton, Thomasville. We pretty much took 3 cities I'd never heard of and used little street corners and pieces of architecture. I was like, oh, that looks like Vancouver. That looks like Ottawa. Street corner here, street corner there.
No, it was extraordinary what you did. And I came to the project a little bit later on, actually 3 days before I started shooting. It was an offer. I was out of town. I was helping my wife launch her book. And I get this incredible offer. And of course I say yes. But 2 or 3 days later, I'm on a set, we're shooting. So a lot of the appeal for me was naturally, I mean, the material was phenomenal. It's always for me, it's always with what's on the page. If it's there, it's, you have a very good chance of executing a really cool project. And in the hands of Allan, and then also with this phenomenal cast, you're in for a great ride. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a very easy answer for me. And I was thrilled to dive in, even with as little prep as I had. We all sort of prepped as we went along. Certainly I had to do my research as I went along, but I had so much fun doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So did either of you try to contact anyone associated with the real Galvin family or anyone involved with his crimes?
Yeah, so Gilbert was involved essentially as a consultant in a way. I mean, 5 years ago when I read the script. So Craig Wenman, who wrote it, he grew up in Ottawa and he heard tales about Gilbert. So when he became a successful writer, tracked down the publisher, got to the author, got to Gilbert. Like Gilbert, he charmed his way into getting the life rights from Gil and the publisher for the book. And so I talked to Gilbert very early on. And then when Josh signed on to the film, he was the first one in, him and Gilbert started talking. So we were able to sort of draw from that wealth of knowledge that he had, pick his brain. And he was actually on set. He's a patron in the background, drinking beer a couple of times if you look close enough. And so we were very fortunate to have him there. And that was pretty much it. Unfortunately, Snyder wasn't, we weren't able to accommodate at the time. He just wasn't available. And, Alicia's character, it's sort of a sensitive topic to recount how your husband was
I'm sure that's robbers in Canada.
So it was just Gil.
Yeah, but that's, if you're going to have someone,
you may as well have the man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have to bring this up. We have to talk about the eyeliner jokes. I literally laughed out loud. Like I watched a screener in my office and I was literally cracking up like to myself. Okay, so I'm assuming those were added after Nestor was cast. Nestor, what was your initial reaction to those lines? Are you surprised people still regularly think you rock eyeliner?
I'm not surprised. I got to tell you something, Paige. I mean, I sometimes I look on camera when I see that myself on camera, I go, I can't blame people because, it does, there's certain lighting. If there's too much makeup under the eye, then it even highlights it more. So you typically ask people not to put anything under there. But I remember watching The Dark Knight going, yep, looks like I got eyeliner. It does, and I was like,
thought in The Dark Knight that you had eyeliner on. I'm going to completely admit that.
You and me both. Yes,
100%. I did too.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, maybe I put it on. I don't even know. No. So I always have fun. I've done it in another number of productions because it's sometimes it's pretty apparent. And we talked about it with Boy George. We had this whole thing with Boy George. He wears makeup, and so I was like, I got to throw that in there. So,
yeah, it made sense. It wasn't one of those things that we just did for the sake of doing.
No.
It kind of made sense. And I think I was able to talk him into it because I have really long eyelashes.
Yeah, me too.
So the makeup girls were always kind of poking fun at our eyes,
That's
obviously
exactly
complimentary. And so I was like, all right, listen, I'm in this with you. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about this and I was like, let's just, it made sense given the whole Boy George thing.
And Josh brought it back at the end of the film.
He
as
did.
an ad lib.
He did. So
Maybelline?
Yeah, and that's kind of part of the environment that we wanted to create on set, was kind of giving them the freedom to improvise and ad lib. And so, when you're working alongside such great actors as a director, you're like, I've got to just let them play, and
Yeah, but it takes a certain hand to allow that, and also make sure we don't run off and do another film.
Rein you in.
So, and you got to rein us in at times, and that was such a fun environment. You created that beautiful environment, all within the constraints of 21 days. I mean, we were under the gun and under the heat. This is a smack in the middle of summer in Georgia, trying to do winter in Canada.
I like that slogan, under the gun and under the heat.
There you go.
That's the next film.
All right, there it is.